Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. Chase Hooper versus Nick Fiore. Nick Fiore's 25 years old, 6-1 as a pro, and he's giving up 3 inches of height and 2 inches of reach to Chase Hooper, who is 23 years old and 11-3 as a pro. Chase already has twice the experience of Fiore, although it still feels like both these guys are just getting going. Chase, I should mention, is moving up the lightweight here. Moving up the lightweight, which I guess moving up in weight only helps the chin. Not that I have doubts about his chin, or too big of doubts anyway, but he was knocked out in his last fight. First time he was ever finished, but it was a bad loss. He was knocked around and finished by Steve Garcia, who typically when he wins knocks around and finishes guys. But again, Chase Hooper's a guy that I'd never seen finish. He'd lost 2 decisions before that to solid fighters, Bruce Leroy and Steven Peterson. And yeah, it boded well for him, going to a decision in a losing effort against those guys. But in general, his jiu-jitsu is what keeps him safe, prolongs fights, and, scares away fighters from certain positions. But against Steve Garcia, there was none of that. Steve Garcia was a power striker in his face and made it a brawl and put him away. So Chase, I think, when he's almost always going to be losing the physicality battle. I know he's putting on weight so he can fill out and get stronger. Maybe he will turn a corner physically. But in general, I expect him to be the scrawny kid who loses the physicality battle in all of his UFC fights until I see, the new Chase Uberim standing in front of me. But Nick Fiore, he's not the greatest athlete either, but I trust him to have more athletically and, and power, I'd say, than Chase Hooper. Nick Fiore, he's 6-1 as a pro, 2 TKO victories, 4 submissions, no decisions, and his 1 loss comes by decision to Mateusz Rebecki. This guy is a fucking tank. He's pretty much the opposite of Chase Hooper, as far as bodies go anyway. And he was bullied around there. But still, he went the distance, had some moments, a takedown, in the middle of the fight. And, yeah, I expected him to lose by finish in that one. And he ended up going the distance, so it was something. 2 of his 6 victories come over Jay Ellis, who, whatever. The guy is a famous, can, as you might call him. He's got, whatever, like 10, 15 wins and over 100 losses. But I was listening to an interview with Gerald Mearshart, who lost to Jay Ellis. And Mearshart was like, I'm telling you, that guy is incredibly skilled for a minute. He's very dangerous for a minute. After that, he's all yours. And Fiore was able to outlast him, get to that 1 minute mark. I actually think one of the fights was under a minute. But either way, the guy Jay Ellis, when the going gets tough, he typically checks out, and that's what happened there. So my point is, not the most impressive record for Nick Fiore. But he looked good in defeat, kind of, against Rebecki. He looked all right in defeat anyway. Exceeded my expectations. I thought with looking at their records and their fights that he would get crushed. He is a Henzo black belt. I don't know if it's directly under Henzo, but at least that's what I have him listed as. A Gracie black belt. And he has been knocked out, I should mention. His 1 amateur loss is a knockout. He was slammed, putting up a triangle choke, like Rampage slammed Ricardo Arona. He was knocked unconscious in precisely that fashion, which, he's 25 years old, much like Chase Hooper being 23. 1 TKO loss or KO loss isn't enough for me to dismiss you as fragile or having a weak chin or whatever, but it's important to note that it happened. I don't think Chase Hooper is going to be slamming anybody unconscious, but it happened. This fight here, look, I think Nick Fiore, I have a hunch he's got the advantage on the feet, and he can win the physicality battle, bullying Chase Hooper around, although who knows what kind of Chase is going to show up at lightweight. But I also think this fight will favor Chase. I don't think Nick Fiore is going to have a distinct advantage in those realms, in the physicality realm. I think this, Nick Fiore is much more closer to Chase than fucking Rebecki. But Chase, in general, he's a guy that wins the grappling battle, and I think Nick Fiore is just in too deep as a grappler to fight a stand-up fight. I know that's what he's going to be trying to do, of course, but I think Chase Hooper is going to be able to insist on making this a grappling battle, and he's going to make it a grappling battle. You know, unless Nick Fiore really minds his P's and Q's and fights the perfect fight, Chase is going to lace up a leg, if not go straight through him and take him down. I don't think he's going to, but Chase, I think, in one way or another, will get him down, and we will eventually see a grappling battle, and I've got Chase Hooper winning that. I just think Chase Hooper is fighting a very stylistically favorable matchup here, and Nick Fiore, he's not Steve Garcia. He's definitely not Steve Garcia, just as much as Chase Hooper is not Mateusz Rebecki. But still expecting an interesting styles clash. I'm taking Chase Hooper here. He has shown to have grit. Again, those 2 losses and the comeback win over Peter Barrett. Got him out of there with a heel hook in round 3 after being down 2 rounds. And he's also shown to have good cardio in a winning effort, putting away Felipe Colares in round 3. In that fight, he looked awesome. That's what had me fooled, that he was a better striker. Rest in peace to Colares, by the way. I don't know if I said that. But I don't know. I still think Chase Hooper there's enough doubts where even though I'm picking him to win and he's an underdog, I'm not going to bet on this fight. I don't like the way he's looked. There are too many unknowns with this one, and I'm staying away from it. But the pick is Chase Hooper wins. I'll take him winning by decision. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.